When I was 15 years old, I lost my vision. And at that point, all I really wanted was a guide dog. I knew having a guide dog of my own would help me with my independence, but it wasn't as easy as just going to a shop and picking one out. I decided at the time the quickest way to get my own guide dog was to raise the £3,000 needed to name one. So I did. I named a guide dog Sindel after one of my favourite teachers. But there was still a long ways to go before I could get my own guide dog. I'm Beth Deer, and this is Follow My Lead. Before I was even considered eligible to get a guide dog, I had to have superior white cane skills and good spatial awareness. Two skills I had still yet to master. I was also in the process of moving to a new boarding school for the blind and partially sighted. And Guide Dogs for the Blind wouldn't put me on their waiting list until I was fully familiar with my new surroundings. Now, guide dogs are more than just mobility aids for blind and partially sighted people. They also provide us with many other benefits, including affection, companionship, feelings of independence, and confidence. They help relieve stress and anxiety, and are trusted friends who help us navigate situations and obstacles that might normally keep us at home. I was living in England at the time, so the wait list was much longer. It could be up to 5 years. I knew the wait could be shortened, depending on whether or not Guide Dogs for the Blind found a perfect match for me, but I was so impatient. Through all of this, the great people at Guide Dogs for the Blind were always supportive and kept me positive. April Hegland is an instructor for Guide Dogs for the Blind, an international organisation that creates perfect partnerships between people, dogs, and communities. Hi April, can you tell us what Guide Dogs for the Blind is all about?
Sure. So we are an organization that trains visually impaired clients in United States and Canada, and we were founded in 1942. So we've had many, many years of training many dogs and many clients. And we have a sister organization called GDB International at gdbinternational.ca. And that is an organization that does all the fundraising for us so that we can provide services for clients like yourself in Canada.
What kind of dogs do you guys train? Like, which dogs make the best guide dogs?
Sure. So most of our dogs are Labrador Retrievers, and we also train Golden Retrievers and then a cross between those two breeds. They are loving, they're loyal, they're very food motivated and willing, and they're just have proven themselves to be really great service dogs.
April has been a guide dog mobility instructor for over 7 years, and I am so jealous. I wish I was a guide dog trainer. She and all the trainers at Guide Dogs for the Blind do such an amazing job preparing their dogs for their human partners.
Our training philosophy is to focus primarily on positive reinforcement training. So we show the dog what we want them to do, and then we'll use a clicker and we'll click them the moment that they're doing something we want and reinforce with a treat. And that's how we do the majority of all of our training. We want them to love their job, and using positive reinforcement definitely allows that to happen. So we have the dogs on campus when they're about 1.5 years, and it's a 12-week program that we bring the dogs through. And most of the dogs will complete it in 12 weeks.
In the 12-week program, if a dog isn't meant to be a guide dog, when do you guys find that out?
Generally, we'll take them through all the basics and all the fundamental skills. And so we'll usually have them for about 5 or 6 weeks. And at that point, we have a history with the dogs. We've given them the foundation of what we want them to do, and they have that understanding. And at this point, we're giving the responsibility over to the dog. And so around that time is when sometimes we'll find some dogs who are more self-motivated. They really are dog distracted, and so they would prefer to go play with dogs than play what I like to call the guide dog game. And so those dogs may pass out of the program at that point, or we'll put them on an evaluation process, where we'll continue them through the training, but we'll have in the back of our minds that this is a concern that we want to make sure we fully evaluate. When we go into the city, there may be some things that we encounter, such as loud construction or strange odors that we didn't notice in the smaller communities, but we'll find this dog has a negative reaction and we'll evaluate that. If the dog plateaus, then we'll go ahead and career change them from the program and let them do something that they're more suited for.
Now, I obviously know the answer to this question because I am a lucky recipient, but what is the follow-up care like from Guide Dogs for the Blind?
We have what we call field managers who are in charge of various territories in Canada and also in the United States, who their sole job is to follow up with our clients who graduate. We have a post-class call just about a week and a half after you graduate, and then we have a 10-week call that someone from our support center also gives you. So that first year after graduating, one of the field service managers or one of us instructors who are helping the field service managers at the time will schedule an appointment and actually come out to your home, and we'll make sure everything is transitioning smoothly into your home area. Then after that point, we'll give you a phone call every year and check in. When the dog reaches the age of about 8, we'll again do that in-person visit once again, so that we can together as a team figure out when might be a good time to talk about retirement.
April and all the other talented trainers at Guide Dogs for the Blind have such a great success rate matching their dogs with the right people. And they do work with so many partnerships. But I was really curious about one thing.
Do you remember any of your training with Patronus? Like, do you see so many dogs, like, do you specifically remember him and like if he was a good or a bad boy in his training?
Sure. So I do have my hands on a lot of dogs, and I do remember a dog named Patronus who was big, handsome, and black on campus. I had him for just about 3 weeks as we were waiting for you to come along, Beth.
That's so cool. I didn't know that.
And I was just basically brushing up, well, not even brushing up his skills because his skills were already solid. But I was just continuing to work him and progress him in his confidence.
Yeah, and do you know what's funny is this makes so much sense because 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks before I was scheduled to come to class, I got an email from Guide Dog saying that they had a space in their class, but it was 2 weeks before I was meant to go to class, and like would I like to go, and unfortunately I was in England, so I wasn't able to go, and we had to keep the scheduled date. So I probably would have gotten Patronus even if I had gone then.
It's very possible because he was ready to go at that point. So they probably just held him for you, and I was the one who was working him in the meantime.
Well, thank you very much for doing that, because he's one of those dogs, like, he just loves to work. Like, I just have to ask him if he wants to work, and he just shoves his head through the harness and he's ready to go.
That is fantastic. I love that.
Guide Dogs for the Blind gave me my perfect match, Patronus. They are always available for regular support and training tips. And while I was there, I made some lifelong friends.
After the break, we talked to one of those friends and longtime guide dog owner who is now on her 6th guide dog. More to come on Follow My Lead. You're watching Follow My Lead. I'm Beth Deer. Once I moved to Canada, I had to start all over on the guide dog waiting list. There were a few options available to me, including trying to train my own guide dog. My best option was still Guide Dogs for the Blind, and even though I wasn't a permanent Canadian resident yet, I was put on the waiting list anyway. I had a call with them and they let me know that as soon as I was comfortable in Canada with my surroundings, they would send someone to see me and do an in-person consultation.
This is where they come and assess your home life, your personality, walking speed, if you have any other pets, where they learn all about you. But they told me it could take up to 6 months for this visit to happen.
Surprise! The very next morning, they called and asked if a trainer could come by the next day to do the assessment. We did the assessment and they let me know I would be flying to Oregon the following spring to train and meet my new dog.
I was so nervous when I went. I knew there would be 6 of us all together, but I wouldn't know anyone. But once I was there, I quickly met Tiffany Baylor, who was getting her 5th guide dog, a golden retriever named Hampton.
Hi Tiffany, thanks for joining me. With so much experience, can you give me a bit of insight as to what you look for in a guide dog?
Well, you know, it's funny to say, but when it comes to a guide dog, I'm looking for self-assuredness, I'm looking for a dog that can be well behaved and represent people who use guide dogs for mobility. That's really important because every time you go outside with your guide dog, you are an ambassador.
Yeah, definitely.
When I first started getting guide dogs, I needed to have a dog that would literally wait for me to tell them what exactly I wanted them to do. As I've been using guide dogs, and I'm now 26 years in, I do want one that I can trust to be able to offer an option. For example, if I'm walking down the street with my guide dog and he knows we always go this way to the grocery store, I want her to sort of pause a little bit and sort of turn that direction to sort of say, you know, the grocery store is here. Is this where we're going? And then I'm like, nope, not today. We're going somewhere else. I want the dog to be able to shake it off, not feel the note as they did something wrong, but like, oh, not today. Let's go forward some more. And then follow that command.
I agree. I kind of think as me and Patronus like a partnership too.
There has to be sort of a very good symbiotic relationship so that you're able to get there safely from what you know, and then they look at the immediate, what's going on right now. And the team together is what makes it work.
How do you know when it's time to retire a guide dog? Obviously, you've had 5 dogs that have retired, so you're much better versed in that than a lot of guide dog users are.
That goes back to that really good relationship that you might have with your dog. And so when you start noticing a change, for example, all my dogs would love to get ready to go. If I even look like I'm going to get the harness and go outside, they jump in, they get excited, and we start walking. And then after about 2 blocks, they get a little tuckered. You just notice a pattern if you start noticing that this happens kind of regularly. And if you're still not sure, call out the guide dog school, especially if it's guide dogs for the blind. They will send someone out there immediately. But there's dogs that stay at home all day with their person because the person does, doesn't work or anything and just enjoys life at home. So they might have a bit of a longer life. My dogs are going to be on and off planes. They're most likely going to be hiking and climbing somewhere, so depending on what you do and how much you do is probably going to have some impact on the length of time a guide dog will be able to work. Because we might walk down the street for a stroll and think we're just strolling, but a guide dog is thinking and calculating the space between you and the curb and the space between you and that tree coming up and whether that obstacle is going to affect you or not, or how far the corner is and where is the downgrade and all these other things that they are not just chilling when they walk down the street.
And what happens to a guide dog when they retire?
Oh, usually when the guide dogs retire, you can either give them to a friend or family member, but it has to be a friend or family member that actually can take care of them because the guide dog school cares about these dogs for life. Or you can give it back to the guide dog school and let it go back to the puppy raiser or to one of the bazillion of people who are waiting in line for the opportunity to get a retired guide dog because they're so well behaved.
And they tell me about what it's like to change dogs. Like when I met you and you went from Lando to Hampton.
So it was kind of bittersweet because I was excited about getting Hampton, but Lando was my heart. I had to let go of the pain that losing that dog and be ready to invest new heart and love into another one. Hampton just knew how much space to give me and how much comforting to give me at the same time. And I think that was just so perfect. When they pick the dogs for the people, they do such excellent work.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, the one thing that blows my mind is how similar Patronus's personality is to mine. I think they do such a good job. Their personalities are always so similar to your own.
I wish they can find husbands that way.
Yeah, wouldn't that be the best? But something that I'm really interested to hear about is how the public and accessibility and stuff like that has changed throughout your time as a guide dog user.
When I first started using guide dogs, society really did not accept my access into different locations in the city. I went to a pizza place, one of the first activities I did. The person there told me, get out. you can't bring that dog in here. And I tried to explain, because I remember Guide Dogs for the Blind gave me these beautiful little cards that I can give to people to show them and explain if they're not understanding. So I gave them one of the cards, which was soon thrown back at me, and I was reminded to get out. But I've noticed that a lot of people, schools, elementary schools, were having for their Disability Awareness Month's activities, they would choose guide dog as a subject because they thought, oh, the guide dog is cute. But inadvertently, they taught these students about guide dog use and the etiquette and their accessibility. And funny, these kids turned around, went home, told their moms and dads and older brothers and sisters. And before you know it, you started to see an evolution of more people being aware of guide dogs, understanding what they're supposed to do. I tell you, the first time I just jumped all up and down so happy was when I was in a mall and a mother came over and started to grab at the dog. And the child, a 6-year-old child, said, oh no, Mom, that's a guide dog. You can't pet those while they're working. See that harness? You can't touch that. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's finally gonna evolve.
Over the course of Tiffany's 26-year journey, she's witnessed the evolution and perception of guide dogs change.
Next, we meet a young man from Calgary who's just beginning his journey with guide dogs. Stay tuned for more. Follow my lead.
Welcome back to Follow My Lead. I'm Beth Deer. My 2 weeks in Oregon training with the talented people at Guide Dogs for the Blind was amazing. The first day was spent meeting everyone and learning the surroundings. But on day 2, I finally got to meet my new partner. I was anxiously waiting in my room when the trainer came in with a beautiful black Labrador with big amber eyes. This was Patronus. It was the perfect name.
Expecto Patronum is a spell in the Harry Potter movies that creates your spirit animal that comes to protect you. Harry Potter's Patronus is a stag, and my last name is Deer. Also, we had just finished watching all 8 Harry Potter movies.
For the next 2 weeks, Patronus and I trained hard on so many things: behavior, grooming, socialization, and how to support each other as partners. The trainers were great at finding our perfect matches and preparing us for when we were at home on our own, although we weren't really on our own.
I had waited a few years to finally get my guide dog, but last year the CNIB launched the Buddy Dog program, which set out to place buddy dogs with children to help them prepare to eventually get a guide dog partnership.
Today, there are 9 buddy dog partnerships in Canada, including the one between 12-year-old Zach Abdallah of Calgary and Elsie. We chatted with Zach and his mother Chris about this CNIB pilot program.
Hi Zach, why don't you start by telling us about Elsie?
So Elsie is a dog. Better make sure that you know that. She's a she's a golden retriever, and she is a CNIB buddy dog. The goal of a buddy dog is to teach youth how to care for a dog, grooming, walking, training, all those things. Because basically half of learning how to care for a guide dog is learning how to care for the dog. So Elsie helps me specifically with learning the dog part of the guide dog. And then I can get a guide dog around 16 and learn the guide part of the guide dog.
Zach has always been fiercely independent. So from as long as I can remember, he's always, even when he was a toddler, he's like, I can do it myself. So when he was 8, he lost a larger chunk of his vision. And at that point in time is when he started using the white cane. And we were concerned he wouldn't want to use it. And so we said, either you're attached to my arm all the time or you use the cane. And he grabbed the cane and never looked back. So he has, throughout his entire life, he has known that he wants to get a guide dog and he wants that independent, wants to be able to interact with his world in the most independent possible way.
Paw, other paw. Good girl, Elsie. Good girl, good girl. Up.
When they started training guide dogs in Canada, the first program in Canada, some of the dogs that are in that program didn't quite make the cut to be full-fledged guide dogs. So they made it almost all the way through the training, but typically there's something about it that makes them so that they're not safe to be working dogs. So for example, with Elsie, she was afraid of loud noises, so things like vacuums or constructions, and they needed somewhere to, reuse these dogs in a way that's still meaningful, because a lot of investment went into these dogs.
Guide dogs have like a PhD in guiding, right? Buddy dogs have a master's degree in guiding. They're still like really good dogs.
What is your favorite thing to do with Elsie? Like when it's just you two, how do you pass the time?
Cuddles.
Just cuddles?
Cuddles is great. Cuddles are the best. I love cuddles. Although Elsie would like to eat food a lot.
Yeah, I definitely have a dog like that too.
CNIB take very good care into making sure both the animal and the child have personalities that match, that will be able to give them the most benefit through that partnership that they have.
Roll over. Good girl, Elsie, good girl. She's like, I'm done with this.
Buddy dogs hold a special place in the hearts of their partners. What could be better than spending all your time with a furry friend who listens, doesn't hold grudges, and is always happy to see you and be with you?
Good girl, Elsie, good.
How has Elsie enriched your life? What do you feel like she's given you and taught you?
Elsie has definitely helped me a lot. That's like a given. I'd say the main things are learning how to take care of a dog, as well as also, I was like actually terrified of dogs before I got Elsie. It wasn't really that I was scared of the dog. I was scared of the fact that I didn't know where the dog was going to go. Elsie has definitely made me more aware of how dogs think and act, so that they're more predictable now. And also just it gives people companions.
I look back, and even though we've only had her for a year, I can't imagine Zach without her. So they are such a partnership, and they're always together when they're at home. And even though we talk about the ultimate goal of, helping, how she helps him get ready for a guide dog, there is also an emotional aspect in there with that close partnership. And so, for example, just 4 months ago, Zach had his 19th eye surgery. And when he came home from the hospital, having Elsie there to cuddle with him and to be there was something I can't imagine how we did 18 surgeries before without her. Right? Something as simple as, at one point in time, he said to me, "Oh, Mom, my eye's itching." And I said, "Oh, do you want something to squeeze to distract you from it?" And he's like, "No, I'm good. I have my dog."
There are so many great options available for blind and partially sighted people now in Canada and internationally when looking for a guide dog or buddy dog or any other kind of dog that supports you. The support they give is invaluable. I know my confidence has grown so much since I've got Patronus, and I can now travel to most places on my own, including home, England, which is a long trip for anyone, but it doesn't faze Patronus because he's with me.
Patronus, you're my best friend. Are you my best friend? You are.
Host, Beth Deer. Producer, Lance Corbett. Videographer and editor, Patrick Kelly. Media Accessibility Specialist, Simone Cupid. Audio Post, Mark Phoenix. Graphics, Mike Smith. Senior Producer, Michelle Dudas. President and CEO, David Errington. Copyright 2020 Accessible Media, Inc.